My name is Diana McCurtain-Talbert. I am part of Alamo Colleges Online, and I am happy to introduce our first presenter, Mallory Plummer. She is the Director of Teaching with Technology at Northwest Vista College. She holds a master's degree in higher education administration and a bachelor's in graphic design. Mallory has served as an adjunct faculty member in student development since 2015. She has extensive student success and academic success experience, culminating in 15 years of higher education excellence. She's a proud wife, an aunt, and is thrilled to engage along with us today. Please welcome Mrs. Mallory Plummer. And then just as a side note, if you have any questions for Mallory, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Also, there's going to be a dedicated Q&A after the presentation. And with that, I will turn it over to Mallory.
Thank you so much, Diana, and welcome everyone. Thank you for this first session of the National Distance Learning Week. I'm super excited. I'm like, why am I first? But we're good. So let me pull up my presentation and we will begin. Okay, so today I'd like to walk us through going beyond just using technology for the sake of saying, oh, I learned this new tool, how can I use it, right? Being able to connect humans in a more meaningful way through digital storytelling. First and foremost, I would like to honor all of our veterans on this Veterans Day. Thank you for making all of the sacrifices that you have and for serving our country so well. And I'm so very grateful to be among you in this midst. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful Veterans Day. Today, we're going to talk about storytelling in general, the power of storytelling. Then we'll introduce the digital element of storytelling and how that adds a layer, especially for our online students. We'll explore a few examples from my course that I'd like to share with you that you could adopt if you'd like. We'll preview some of the technology tools that allow us to engage our students in digital storytelling. And then lastly, we'll save some time, hopefully, for a wrap up and a Q&A. But again, you're more than welcome to ask your question in the chat if you'd like. Diana is so graciously taking a look at that to make sure that we don't miss anyone. So please feel free if you have a question throughout the presentation. Otherwise, we will have a section at the end. So just to break the ice with us here, I'd like you to start thinking about your best friend when you were growing up. It could be kindergarten age, it could be K-12, what have you, but think of someone who you would consider as your best friend as you were growing up. And we're going to take some time in breakout rooms to talk about that experience with our peers, with everyone here. So I'm going to set up the rooms, and I'll also add that in the chat if I can, but as a reminder. But again, it's going to be a story about a best friend. Hey, welcome back, everyone, as we're trickling in. I'm looking at your faces, so it looks like you had a great time talking about your best friend. Awesome. I'll let everyone rejoin. Okay, so hopefully as you were connecting with your group mates, you were able to share a good story. And I'd like you to just think about some of the feelings that came up, some of the thoughts, some of the memories that you experienced, having shared a bit of yourself with someone who may be a stranger to you, may not be. And that's the basis I'd really like to convey here in regard to how we can allow our students to show themselves and present themselves in a storytelling platform digitally. Okay, so thank you for engaging in that activity for sure. So why does storytelling matter? For our students, stories help them to express their identities, many of those being newly formed for our first time in college students or of a certain age group, and allow them to make meaning. For me, this means they are able to answer questions for themselves, such as, why am I in college? What goals do I have in life? Will what I'm doing here help me to develop into the person I want to be, or to develop the character that I find to be essential for me being an adult? Also, storytelling in general builds connection, and that's something that you may have experienced just briefly talking with a peer. Connection and authenticity. Telling your own story helps you remind yourself of your authentic being, and that is also substantiated by research. Storytelling helps us to center on the wins, or the things that matter the most, being a sense of belonging. And at Northwest Vista College, where I currently serve, we spend a lot of time talking about belonging for our students and making sure that they feel that our college is tailored to their needs and makes them feel like they matter. Self-determination can be expounded upon when we think about storytelling, in that as I'm telling my story, I could be talking about something that was an obstacle for me. I could be talking about something that I overcame. And by telling my story with, say, my peers or my instructor, I'm able to then reinforce my self-determination to say, I am a resilient person. I can get past this thing, right? And then we all know the benefits of project-based learning and allowing students to show those competencies in other ways other than just quizzes and assessments in the traditional format. Again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat. We're just going to keep moving right along. Now that we've talked about the power of storytelling in general, let's add the digital element. Digital storytelling is more than just creating a video. Although it could include a video, it could also be an infographic where students are asked to relay a concept through pictures or images, video clips, or static images or stamps or stickers. It could be audio through a podcast, photos, etc. There are many ways that students can engage in a digital storytelling element. Digital storytelling also encourages students to have multiple literacies, be it informational literacy, traditional literary literacy, and even developing the skills of content creation, which is very big right now in industry. And I also touched on that personal reflection piece, being able to share a story about how you've developed as a person and reflected on maybe a past instance in your life. According to research, there are 10 steps to storytelling, beginning with research, the brainstorming phase, making a proposal, a concept map. Then you have the sets of writing, planning, producing the content, editing, assembling, and sharing. So as you can see, there are multiple ways that students can develop as they create some type of story. Now let's discuss the learning outcomes, the desired learning outcomes for digital storytelling. We mentioned reflection, right? Knowing where you went from A to B. Planning, engagement, being more engaged because you're reflecting on your own experience. Authenticity, being true to yourself. And my personal favorite as an instructor to student bonding. And we'll talk about each of those and emphasize that last piece. Many of you are probably very aware of Bloom's taxonomy, but for those of us in the audience that may or may not teach, we're talking about the levels that students learn and the hierarchy, beginning with remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and that pinnacle, create. I would argue that digital storytelling allows students to get to that pinnacle, that create. And I'd like to share this brief video just to demonstrate that.
The security on the border didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of hard work and effort from Senator Cornyn with the president, with the Trump administration and Senator Cornyn working together. They're unstoppable.
Call and tell Senator Cornyn to keep delivering for Texas.
Okay, so here
Creating
we are.
is the 6th and highest level. Here, students produce new or original work. They might write a story, design an experiment, or develop a new way to solve a problem. Creating is about combining elements in novel ways to generate something unique. Bloom's taxonomy encourages educators to move students beyond simple memorization to higher levels of thinking. By structuring lessons around these 6 levels, teachers can help students develop critical thinking skills and a deeper understanding of the material. This approach ensures that education isn't just about remembering facts, but about using knowledge in meaningful and creative ways. For example,
Thank you so much for watching that. A few examples that I use in my EDUC 1300 and SDEV 0370 courses are shown here. I have a mock interview video as the final exam in most of my sections, but throughout as a summative assessment, but then I also throughout the class will have opportunities to create an infographic, to have a shared photo album, and also to allow for a digital flyer submission. And again, these are all alternatives to the traditional multiple choice quiz or written paper, but they do allow students to also tell their stories in their responses. I have a quick example of that. One of my students, my former students, submitted his video and had it as public, so I'm able to show it. But what I usually do is I recommend that my students submit theirs as unlisted. We'll talk about that briefly in YouTube. This was prior to us having Panopto, but the unlisted option allows the student to just share the link just with me as the instructor and no one else, so that it is in a more private setting. And this is, I'll show just 2 minutes of this. This is the student responding to the mock interview questions that I provided as the final exam. And then also I responded to my student with video feedback as well, just to model what I'm saying here. So I'll show his video and then I'll show a few other responses from my students that are not in a video format, but that I extrapolated from there.
What is your learning style and what study strategies will you continue to use as a college student?
Well, I would say that my learning style, I'm a very visual learner. I like to see what I'm working on. I use lots and lots of different outlets, like Khan Academy, for example, if I'm struggling with something. It's a really good resource for someone like me, a visual learner, to use.
What is one short-term and one long-term goal you have as a college student, and how do you plan to achieve each goal?
Well, I would say for the short-term goal, I definitely want to get a 4.0 for each semester. The way that I would go about completing that would be just making sure I have A's in all my classes, turning in assignments on time, and just an overall making sure that it's an A in the class. For the long term, it's similar to the short term. For long term, it would pretty much just be that making sure all of my classes are A's, and each semester I consecutively get that 4.0. Because in the case that I don't, I can no longer achieve that 4.0 status. So I really need to make sure I'm on top of my game.
Which of the 7 habits of highly...
Okay, so this is just a preview, as I mentioned, but notice that absent of just asking a question and getting a response, the student is able to really give more about himself, his goals, more, and I'm getting more information out of my student and getting closer to my student than I ever would if I hadn't asked for a video submission and to tell his story. So this is just an example. Some of the other responses that I thought were very powerful from some of my students who were asked the same 5 questions were reminding myself why I am here, meaning in school, for a reason will help me stay motivated. Another, I aim to leverage my own perspective and life experiences by contributing to the classroom discussions, projects, etc. Learning to say no when necessary will allow me to manage my responsibilities and ensure I have time for myself. And the last, it, meaning this course, feels like I am crossing the first finish line. So as an instructor, when you get to receive those types of feedback responses, it's so, it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're doing your job as an instructor. So when you engage in digital storytelling, you're getting a wealth of information from your students, right? It's also on us as instructors to then share that feedback with them, right? It's about the connection, not just them pouring in, but us pouring in as well. So without saying everything that I said about this to these students, I just like to encourage us to always tell them they did a great job, right? Always acknowledge the fact that they went out of their way to create the content in a different format. I tried to be very specific about what I enjoyed when I was listening or I was engaging with that content. Oh, I enjoyed hearing about your goal for earning a 4.0 and how you told yourself that if you stuck to this plan, it would work out in your favor type of thing, right? So being specific and not generic with our feedback. Tell them that you're honored to see them grow throughout the semester, right? You're starting with students, particularly first time in college, but it could be any student. You're starting the semester with them with a certain knowledge base, and then by the end of the semester, you've seen their growth, and it's wonderful to tell them that, to share with them, excuse me. And then I like to personally always end, especially that last assignment, end with, I hope your next semester is awesome, or I know you're going to be the doctor you said you're going to be, whatever, right? Again, this is about empowering our students and honoring them for sharing their authenticity with us. Everything doesn't have to be a video, as I mentioned. This is an example of student submission for a wellness infographic, and that's all the instruction I gave the student. I just said, create a managing stress infographic, and I suggest using Canva, and that's pretty much it. And what's beautiful is, and as I'm looking at the different submissions, I'm able to see their own personalities shine through, and I haven't prescribed so much as an instructor that they don't have the wiggle room to be creative, right, and to be themselves. So this particular student did an amazing job. She added very clean graphics, and she mentioned eating a healthy diet and the benefit of that, getting good sleep, practicing mindfulness and meditation, and then also exercise. So again, we're assessing the same things. I can tell that the student knows, went over our lesson on wellness, right? But it's in a different format that allows that person to tell a story. Just quick check with anyone in the chat. We're still good? I don't see anything. Okay, thank you, thank you. So I have a poll here. I'm not sure if we're able to launch it via Zoom. Oh, thank you, we can. If you all wouldn't mind, this is just your opinion, no right or wrong for sure. Which of the following outcomes do you think digital storytelling most enhances in students? And the choices are sense of belonging, authenticity and resilience, engagement, excuse me, and motivation, instructor to student connection, or project planning and management. If you all would answer that, and then we'll just take a look at the results and see where everyone is thinking. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for engaging in that poll. It looks like I am using the Zoom poll option. I'm answering Ms. Hubbard's question. I'm using the Zoom poll feature. You can pre-create your poll like I like to do, or you could launch it live within a Zoom session under polls if you're the host. So I see for most people are saying engagement and motivation, and then the second we're seeing is the sense of belonging. You're very welcome. So that's great. I mean, I would argue that it's all of these, right? But but it's nice to kind of see that you can use it for multiple things. Now we're going to briefly talk about some of the tools you can use. So let's say you're convinced, right? You're willing to incorporate digital storytelling into your course if you aren't already. And I just want to show a few tech tools here that you could use depending on what the learning outcome is and what you're looking for from your students. One example is YouTube. Students are very familiar with YouTube. The only thing that I would put in the instructions that I told you that I did for my students was to have them set it as unlisted. So what that allows them to do is have a link that can only be shared with someone who they send it to. It does not show up in YouTube search results. And it allows you to share that URL so that when you create the assignment in Canvas, you could set it to URL and the students can submit it that way. So what I'm going to do is put a link in the chat if you would like information about YouTube and how to create videos. Panopto is a wonderful example that we now have as an integration within Canvas to record. So I'm going to do a live demo of that here shortly. That is also a video creation platform that you can use within Canvas. This one is within Canvas. Padlet, some of you may be familiar with Padlet. If you aren't, it allows for almost like a cork board, right? Back in the day, we had those cork boards and you would put the little pen and your little note there. It is like that, but digitally. So it allows you as an instructor to set up a board and allow your students to create their own pegs, if you will, and to engage with each other as well. They can love it, like it, comment, what have you. And so I'm going to put a link for that as well. You can set your Padlet as private or password protected if you'd like, just to kind of give it some, depending on what you're sharing, to give it some security. It's great for collages or video images. I've used it before for shared photo albums within an online course. So I'm going to add that to the chat as well. And the last example that I have here is Canva, which is a graphic design feature that allows students to use, or instructors to use templates to create videos and text, and it's great for infographics, which is what I'm sure my student used that I showed the example for, Canva. So Canvas with no S, Canva. Alrighty, so now let's take a little look at Panopto very quickly. Those of you who are instructors, you'll notice that within the Canvas platform, you'll just want to make sure that you enable it under settings and navigation if you don't already have it enabled, but it's called Panopto Course Videos. And what's great is that, and I'm going to put some support links in video tutorial links in the chat as well. But what's great about it is that I'm here in my sandbox, but I could be in a live course as well. I'll show an example quickly. You're going to click this create button. I always select Panopto Capture if I want to do it live, say we're doing it right now. Or if I've already created a video and I have it saved, say somewhere like say on my computer, that's when I would select the upload media. But for on the spot, I would say Panopto Capture. And it's going to give you this screen like so. You could have just audio. So say you're going to do a presentation and use just audio. You don't want to be on camera. You could select that option. You could select video as what you see here, or you can select screen and apps, which gives you the option to then have a background or to share a presentation. And that's what it's going to show here. Like anything you have open that you want to use as like, think of it as a voiceover, but with a video, you could do that as well. So all you would need to do is, these are your brief settings here, whether or not you have a group that you're presenting with, or you have a background image you want to use. This is like a picture in picture. So you're showing as like a little section within the video. I'm going to turn that off for now. And then you just say record. It's going to give you a 5-second countdown. And then you just start. You said, hello, students. I'm so glad you joined us today to talk about digital storytelling. So I'm going to close that. As it's uploading, you're able to rename it. So I'm going to call it Digital Storytelling Hello. You can edit if you need to, say you want to chop some part of it off or what have you, or if you don't like it at all, you can just click redo and it'll take you back to that screen where you just press a little red circle. And then you can preview it also where you are here, just play here. Start. You said, hello students, I'm so glad you joined us today to talk about digital storytelling. So as simple as that, right? And don't be ashamed to hit redo. I do it all the time because I never get my first take how I want it. So, what's also great, that I'm not going to demo per se today, but what's also great is that you can, within Panopto, the website, you can edit your captions. So let's say what we were discussing something in the video and the wrong word popped up in the captions, you can manually change that and edit it to the correct caption. So just so that you know that that is a resource, I'm going to put some links in the chat here. Okay, thank you, Julian, for the suggestion for booklet. Is similar to Padlet and Kahoot. Appreciate that. Thank you, Julian. Yeah, we're here to share, so thank you. Okay, any questions at all? We're almost at the home stretch with this. Okay, I'll keep a lookout just in case. All righty, so what I showed you was just a brief demonstration of Panopto. Again, you can record and edit your videos. What I also like about Panopto is that you can record to a content page or even an announcement. So you would just select the little icon that looks like this here, but it's green and within Canvas. And you can do as many texts as you need to, and then that way your students have can hear you telling your digital story, right, as an announcement or as on a page. All right, I'd like us to do one more discussion together. This one is what instructor to student bond might result from digital storytelling. So if you wouldn't mind engaging again with your peers and joining your room. Thank you.
Going back already.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let everyone come back in. Okay, thank you everyone for joining back. Thank you, thank you. Sorry we didn't have much time, but I want to make sure that we have time to wrap up and just reconvene. All right, so I think we have most of everyone back. Thank you so much again, and hopefully you all were able to discuss some of that bonding that can happen. To wrap up for this session, I just wanted to give a few tips and or just reminders and things for all of us to think about, especially those of us who teach online or online students ourselves, right? And it's this, that digital storytelling prioritizes the individual, right? We're not always thinking of our students as a group. And when you give opportunities for students to tell their stories, especially online students to tell their stories, it helps them feel empowered to be there and to remain enrolled, and also to think of themselves as part of the campus community. The other is technology is the vehicle, not the driver, right? So we want to make sure that we're not working backwards to say, oh, there's this, I really want to try Panopto. Let me figure out how I'm going to use it in a learning environment, right? We should think about what is the learning first, and then research the different types of technology that might serve as a vehicle to the driver being the learning experience, right? And then for our students, again, you know, the core of why we do what we do every day is when our students are able to control their own narratives, have genuine connections, and have those paradigm shifts, all of that helps to increase their learning, right? I want to also share this quote by Steve Jobs, tech giant Steve Jobs. It says, you've got to start with the customer experience and work back toward the technology, not the other way around, right? So just keeping all of that in mind. So these are the references that I shared. Many of the links are in the chat. You're welcome to those. And I'd like to ask if there are any questions. We have about a little less than 5 minutes if anyone has any questions or comments. Any eye openers, any like, I want to try that. Yes, ma'am, Miss Lori, please do. Thank you.
Hi, Mallory. What a wonderful presentation. It's very inspiring, and I really appreciate how, you know, you've put students at the center of your approach to designing your online course. So I wonder, can you share about how long do you think it takes you on average to kind of get familiar with any particular new tool that you're just learning how to use, like Panopto? You know, there's always that learning curve, but how much time would you say, you know, you on average? I know it's probably hard to say, but do you have any sense of that?
Sure, that's a great question. I was thinking what I like to do is trial and error by myself first, and then I'll choose a peer, like another instructor or someone else, to kind of bounce it and say, hey, you know what, I'm playing with this. I'm really thinking about that. And I don't find that the technology takes the most time. What takes the most time for me is figuring out what I want to get out of my students first. And then, so if I were to just like guesstimate, say that I've never used Panopto before and I just wanted to give it a try. I just started using it last year in a live course because I wasn't teaching for a little while. And so, like even with the video portion of it, I just pressed the button, and as ugly as it looked the first time, or as, you know, unnuanced as it did the first time, I didn't allow that to get me discouraged. And I think that's maybe part of what takes people time, right? They're like, oh, it doesn't look like I want it to, it didn't do it. It didn't go 100% well with my students this time, so I'm never going to try it again, right? We have to demonstrate that same resilience that we're asking our students to, and just not give up. And if it's something worthwhile, it gets easier and easier and easier to use, to where, you know, a couple semesters to a year in, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. This is what it's intended to do, and how. So I would just say, when you're preparing to build your course in general, it's a good time to just start playing with it when you don't have students, live students in there, and then try something very low stakes with your students. So maybe it's just a survey that has an embedded video, or maybe it's the Padlet that I mentioned, where it's just literally all you do is add your comments and love it or like it or don't, right? I think starting with those smaller things that you personally have a really great grasp on, I think is a good way to get your feet wet. And I also would say, you know, sometimes less is better in regard to just putting in a lot of new tech, right? It's because, again, it's not how much you use, it's how much in a valuable way you do use it, if that makes sense. Thank you. Ms. Guadalupe, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Lori.
yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head with that. I first started as an adjunct in January 2024, and I had no idea. I was hired, and then my predecessor, she quit, and so I had to rely heavily on Dr. Calvert and other numerous resources and the Instructional Design Center as well
Yeah.
to help me learn not only Canvas but also all the fun tools we get to use, and Panopto was one of them. And so I had to like just choose which one I felt like was going to be more effective for me, just learning Canvas at the same time. And I did find I was frustrated because I was trying to do everything at once, but there are so many like tutorials and I had so many resources available, like you said, to just collaborate with other instructors that are like very, very, more on hands or with more experience and know more about that specific tool. And that's what I did. I just kind of just focused on one. There's so many, like the
Yes.
YouTube and
Yeah.
the e-portfolio, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. But
Right.
I think with the Panopto and the Canvas LMS and the integrated tools work easier for us because they're already there. It's already, you don't have to do anything extra. But it can be a little frustrating. But like you said, the longest time for me was to apply. How do I apply this to the assessment?
Thank you so much. I know we're on time right now, so thank you everyone so much. I'm so grateful that you joined, and again, happy Veterans Day. God bless everybody.
And before everyone goes, I just want you to know that I did drop in some links into the chat. If you would please fill out the participant survey. And then there are links to future sessions as well as information for EduTech, which ends this. Mallory, thank you so much for kicking us off with a very inspiring presentation. Thanks so much.